way of a permit system. In return for these fees, both countries have full-time trail maintenance crews, ranger forward/warden stations, well-designed campgrounds, and have placed numerous interpretive signs adjacent to notable historical sites and objects. The official hiking season, when rangers are on duty and trail crew is on site, varies, but usually begins in late May and ends in early September. Peak demand runs from June through August. Avalanche danger lingers into late May, as well as large snow fields that slow progress, whereas September is associated with rain and colder weather. The Chilkoot is also a challenging ultra-run. The fastest known time belongs to ultramarathoner Jeffro Eason, 5 hours and 27 minutes. 8.9. Route and attractions. The Chilkoot Trail features a number of natural and historical sites as shown on the map. By following the numbers on the map from south to north, the hiker will go along the same route as the old prospectors. Their trip normally takes 3 to 5 days, 10, and to stay for the night, a number of designated campgrounds are made. The trail is roughly divided into 3 climatic zones: coastal rainforest, high alpine, above tree limit, and boreal forest. In the end it is connected to White Pass Historical Railway leading back to Skagway, the modern port of the trail. In the following, the points of the map are highlighted with bold letters. Dia. Dia is a ghost town located at the convergence of the Taiya River and Taiya Inlet on the south side of the Chilkoot Pass within the limits of the municipality of Skagway Borough, Alaska. Confidence man and crime boss Soapy Smith, famous for his underworld control of the neighboring town of Skagway in 1897–98, is believed to have had control of Dia as well. 11. The port at Dia had shallow water, while neighboring Skagway had deep water. For a brief period between 1897 and 1899, this trail and town were full of prospectors. Dia was abandoned when the White Pass and Yukon Route Railroad chose the White Pass Trail, which begins in Skagway, over the Chilkoot Trail. By 1905, most of the buildings had been demolished or removed. Coastal rainforest zone. The trail begins in Dia, a ghost town and campground, 15 minutes from Skagway. From the trailhead, the route winds through coastal rainforest along to the Taiya River. The first campsite is Finnegan's Point. This stretch of the trail is in flat terrain with no substantial obstacles. The trail becomes noticeably cooler after Finnegan's Point owing to cool air sinking down from snow and ice fields in the surrounding mountains. Numerous streams also cascade down the mountain sides. This stretch of the trail contains the least amount of visible artifacts. The next camp is Canyon City. Many hikers, especially those desiring a more modest pace or those who have had a late start, stop at Canyon City first night. The shelter located at Canyon City houses many Gold Rush era artifacts. Dia, head of Lynn Canal. Close to the Canyon City campsite are the Canyon City ruins. Canyon City was a tent city during the Gold Rush and its ruins building foundations, a large restaurant stove, a large boiler are still visible. The ruins are accessible by crossing the Taiya River by suspension footbridge. Between Finnegan's Point and Canyon City. After Canyon City ruins, the trail diverges away from the river for the first time as the river disappears into a small canyon, Canyon City's namesake, and climbs up valley wall, traversing subalpine forest. For many sections of the trail, old telegraph and tram wires are exposed adjacent to the trail. For the Gold Rush prospectors, this section of the trail was one of the most difficult. In winter, when the Taiya River was frozen, the Gold Rush stampeders could easily travel up the ice highway. However, in the summer this segment was described as the worst piece of trail on the road, fairly muddy with many boulders and with some short, steep ascents and descents in and out of small gulches. The next landmark is Pleasant Camp. There is an informational trail sign at the original site of Pleasant Camp, a quarter-mile before the present Pleasant Camp campground. Pleasant Camp marks the reunion of the trail with Taiya River and serves as a lightly used small campground. From Pleasant Camp the trail is fairly flat and drives through forest and over small creeks. The trail next comes to Sheep Camp, the last campground on the American side of the trail as well as the final resting stop before the trek up Chilkoot Pass. It is the largest of the campsites on the American side off trail. After leaving Sheep Camp and before the U.S. Ranger Station, the trail passes through a large avalanche. Chilkoot. The slide has wiped out all previously existing forest and leaves a young brushy and alder-dominated landscape. A short distance after the ranger station is a small museum of Gold Rush era artifacts in an old cabin. Soon after leaving the cabin, the subalpine forest slowly yields to a treeless alpine landscape that allows a grand view of the rapidly narrowing Taiya River Valley. As the trail climbs in altitude, its path becomes more improved, often demarcated by yellow markers planted in snowfields. High alpine zone. Chilkoot Pass in June. Within sight of the pass, and at the base of the Golden Stairs, the long difficult incline that leads to the pass, are the scales. The scales were a weight station where freight would be reweighed before the final trek to the pass. Often, native packers were deemed higher packing rates. The scales also hosted a small tent city, including 6 restaurants, 2 hotels, a saloon, and many freighting offices and warehouses. The imposing Golden Stairs also prompted many would-be prospectors to turn around, often leaving behind their required ton of equipment. Because of this, and their snow-preserving properties, artifacts are prevalent at this altitude, including many remnants of wooden structures. After the scales is the final push up to the Chilkoot Pass, the fabled Golden Stairs. The Golden Stairs acquired its name from the steps that prospectors painstakingly carved into the snow and ice of the pass and has retained the name ever since. At the pass proper, at the Canada-US border, is a warming cabin and part-time Parks Canada warden station. Occasionally, if a party is making poor time, the warden or U.S. ranger will offer the warming cabin as an overnight shelter so to not risk the group from being caught in the barren and exposed alpine landscape between the pass and Happy Camp. There are also many artifacts scattered about the Golden Stairs and ridge lines surrounding the pass, including a cache of intact canvas wood, etc. prefabricated boats on the southeastern side of the pass. Stone Crib is situated a half-mile after the pass. Stone Crib served as the terminus of the Chilkoot Railroad and Transport Company's aerial tramway, a huge rocky counterbalance for the tram. This function is still apparent today with the wooden structure collapsed along the west side of the valley. The trail wends its way by a series of alpine lakes, first Crater Lake, Morrow Lake, and finally Happy Camp. Boreal Forest Zone. Lake Linderman. In the early summer the trail continues to pass another couple of lakes, Long Lake and Deep Lake, before crossing Tree Line. Adjacent to Deep Lake and amidst Tree Line, is another campground. The Canadian half of Chilkoot Trail, in the rain shadow of the coast mountains, is much drier, and pine forest, first appearing at Deep Lake, readily contrasts to the more lush temperate rain forest on the U.S. half before Chilkoot Pass. After the trail passes Deep Lake, the outlet river runs parallel to the trail for a short distance before entering a small canyon. Many boat and boat-related artifacts are visible in this area. The trail continues at a gentle decline until the turquoise-colored Lake Linderman comes into view and the trail concludes its descent to the Lake Linderman campground, the headquarters of Canadian Trail Operations. The trail climbs a steep bluff after Linderman and offers an expansive view of the lake and surrounding forest. After Lake Linderman, the trail passes Balloon Lake and the Balloon Lake Campground. The trail diverges after Balloon Lake. One branch continues to Lake Bennett and the tracks of the White Pass and Yukon Route Railroad. The other branch, the Log Cabin Cutoff, connects with the Klondike Highway, but was closed by Parks Canada in 2010. Bennett consists of a campground, a White Pass and Yukon Route depot, several houses, all private property, belonging to White Pass employees or First Nations citizens, and the only Gold Rush era building still standing along the trail today, the renovated St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church. Pilings from bygone epias dot the lake shore and an assortment of cans and other metal artifacts are scattered throughout Chilkoot dot campgrounds. As shown on the route map, there are 9 designated, maintained campgrounds on the Chilkoot Trail. Camping is allowed in these places only. Hikers must use their own tents or shelters, as the cabins at the campgrounds are for warming and cooking only. For cooking, a backpacking stove must be brought along, even though wood stoves are available in some places. Open fires are prohibited. Use of campgrounds must be planned in advance. 12. In addition to the camps, a U.S. Ranger station is located north of Sheep Camp to present the history of the pass and inform about weather and trail conditions before crossing the summit. Finnegan's Point. Finnegan's Point, then and now Finnegan's Point Campground. Finnegan's Point Bridge, Tyar River 1897-98. Finnegan's Point Campground, 2004. Finnegan's Point Campground, 2004. This campground is located adjacent to the Tyar River while Thevely is still relatively flat. The mosquitoes are very bad at Finnegan's Point, partly due to its location and the abundance of standing water. The campsite itself includes a canvas warming and cooking shelter with mosquito screens, bear-proof food storage, a locker, an outhouse, and ample tent sites. Finnegan's Point often takes in very few hikers because of its proximity to the trailhead, and most parties pass Finnegan's Point within a few hours. However, for slower parties and those with a late start on the trail, Finnegan's Point is often the campground of choice. The campground receives its name from Pat Finnegan, who enterprised to collect bridge crossing tolls from stampeders. Finnegan's Point consisted of a huddle of tents surrounding a hardcore of blacksmith shop, saloon, and a restaurant. Canyon City. The second largest campground on the American side of the trail. It is located next to small tributary of the Tyar River. Canyon City includes a log cabin with a wood stove and several bunks, although sleeping is not permitted inside park shelters, several shelves for cooking, and a small porch for drying beer. This cabin was built by the CCC and juvenile delinquents in the 60s. Canyon City includes 16 campsites and 2 outhouses, as well as food lockers and bear poles. Pleasant Camp. This is the smallest of the campgrounds on the American side of the trail. It is located next to a sandbar in the Tyar River and consists of a canvas warming and cooking shelter, a small number of campsites, a bear pole and food lockers. Pleasant Camp usually serves as a spillover campsite if Sheep Camp is full. There is a sign near the cooking shelter notifying backpackers whether Sheep Camp is at capacity or can still take backpackers. Sheep Camp. This is the largest of the American campsites. It is located adjacent to a braided Tyar River. Occasional avalanches, rock slides, or exceptional rains will flood Sheep Camp. Sheep Camp consists of 2 canvas shelters, 3 outhouses, and over 20 campsites. A large post and beam picnic pavilion was completed by the trail crew in 2017. The collapsed CCC cabin was rebuilt in 2018 by the trail crew. The only U.S. Ranger station on the trail is located just a few hundred meters south of Sheep Camp, and the Ranger during the Pleasant Camp official season gives a nightly presentation on the history of the pass and current weather and trail conditions. From Sheep Camp many hikers leave early in the morning, as early as 4 a.m. for the summit push into Canada. During the official hiking season, the park ranger station just south of Sheep Camp gives a quick presentation outlining the route over the pass, the weather forecast and snow conditions every evening in the pavilion. Rangers recommend 7.5 to 10 hours for a group to travel from Sheep Camp to Happy Camp. Happy Camp. Happy Camp in the early season 2004. Happy Camp is the only campground on the Chilkoot Trail in the Alpine. A very small wooden warming cabin, an outhouse, and a modest number of campsites are all available at this campsite. Happy Camp owes its name to the relief prospectors and hikers experienced from arriving at the first outpost after the pass. The camp is situated in a true alpine ecosystem and receives heavy use because of its location. Deep Lake. Deep Lake is one of only 2 campgrounds on the trail without permanent or semi-permanent shelter. Deep Lake includes an outside cooking area, bear-proof lockers for food, and a small number of campsites. It is notable, however, for its scenic location between the indigo hues of Long and Deep Lakes. Lake Lindeman. Lake Lindeman Campground, 2004, the largest campground on the Canadian side. It includes separate north and south campsites, a small cluster of buildings for the trail warden and trail crew, a dock and Parks Canada powerboat, a canvas shelter containing a museum of photographs and small library on the outdoors and Klondike history, and a web of trails leading among the remains of Old Town. The north and south campsites each include a large wooden cabin that serves as a cooking and warming shelter, numerous bear poles, and several picnic tables. The campsite is located on the site of what was Lindeman City during the Gold Rush, a cemetery of deceased prospectors from the Gold Rush remains, as well as numerous foundations, former fire rings, old latrine holes, the ruts of Lindeman City's main street, and a plethora of artifacts ranging from broken wine and beer bottles to tin cans. Lake Lindeman hosts a small tent museum containing photographic displays and a small library of books on the Chilkoot, the outdoors, and other Canadian parks. Balloon Lake. Balloon Lake Camp Cooking Shelter 2016. Balloon Lake is the second campground without semi-permanent shelter, though it now includes a pavilion-style cooking shelter. Located on a small ridge above Lake Lindeman in a pine forest and overlooking the Balloon Lake, the campground is one of the most beautiful on the trail. It includes 2 outhouses, a helicopter pad, and food lockers. Bennett. This camp is the end of the trail. Several structures maintained the White Pass and Yukon route are clustered around the tracks, as well as a private First Nations residence. The campground are relatively small and includes bear poles, picnic tables, and an outhouse. Safety. Bear track. 2004. Bears are the primary safety concern in the park. It is very common for hikers to encounter them. Firearms are not permitted on the Canadian side of Klondike Gold Rush International Historical Park. 13. Almost all parties take bear spray and forward slash or bear bangers as repellents, but most importantly both sides of the park mandate smart bear practices. It is required to stow food in bear-safe locations. Weather and terrain also pose a challenge to hikers. There are few risks in the forest regions of the trail, however once the trail climbs into the alpine, weather and the elements pose more of a concern, the same does vertigo. Often the American Ranger from Sheep Camp sweeps late in the day up to Chilkoot Pass to monitor for straggling groups that may not make Happy Camp and would be in need of emergency shelter. Klondike supply list. The list shows a suggestion of equipment needed for prospectors before they were allowed entry into Canada at the summit of the Chilkoot Pass, 1897-1899. Total weight, 1 ton. 14. 1 50-pound bacon. 400-pound flour. 25-pound rolled oats. 125-pound beans. 10-pound tea. 10-pound coffee. 25-pound